Lunatum, a digital magazine on art, philosophy, and self-irony, and this is our podcast. Here we talk to creators and thinkers about the issues that matter in the ever-changing world. This is our first podcast with Steve Glashier. My name is Tamara, and today we'd like to talk about all the thoughts that Steve would like to share on the current state of social media and digital art. And I hope it will be an exciting conversation for you to listen to. So stay with us and let us know what you think about this talk later on our Instagram, Lunatum Mag. Share the comments, text us in the DMs. We'll be happy to answer and to make these format better. So Steve, the first thing I'd like to discuss when we had our first conversation with you was you said that we're now facing the end of social media, and I see it from three perspectives, I guess, because when we talk about social media, it's the habits of consumption. We have marketing, we have inspirational content, we have motivational content as well. Also, there is this sphere of informational waves we see, like doom scrolling, slacktivism, so many things we can face when we talk about social media as a source of information. And also the communicational aspect, because we have this lack of offline interaction, and we have to communicate via social media, and it just makes this whole communicational process easier, but at the same time causes many trouble. So what is your opinion? Why do you say we're facing the end of social media? What are the reasons for such a belief? How do you see it?
From my point of view, I think we've sort of built something on really bad foundations, and the internet was working actually quite well before social media got involved. It had sort of organically grown, and the message boards and the forums were sort of, they wasn't brilliant places, but they were a lot more pleasant than what we have today, because I think what has happened is everything's become entertainment. And so everything's pushed for agendas or played to a certain narrative. Now we know we can manipulate people. I think you brought advertising into everyday interactions that weren't necessarily needed to be there. Like, people would have just got on instead of creating a divisive world. And I think once the news, you saw news change when it became rolling news, 24-hour news, that they had to sensationalize more. You even see it if you're on YouTube now and it's breaking news or this, or everything's clickbaited. So you're living in a very noisy environment. I think if you just imagine, like, you're living in an apartment and you look out onto Times Square, and what that would have done to you in the 80s is what everyone sits through every day. Like, there is no peace amongst all this noise, everyone trying to get your attention. And it's disruptive because it's challenging you every minute to everything you are, your whole being. It's sort of, it's this, the world's going to end, but you should be looking pretty for it. You should do some mental exercise, and your mental health's going to be really important in the apocalypse. And this is sort of the narrative. And I think, like, for some reason we gravitate towards bad news. It's probably in our DNA to, like, think a little bit of ahead of where we are and go, oh, if this and this happens, this will happen, in the same way we build tools, So I think they're protective sort of ways, but I think now they're being played so much against us, it's so detrimental. And you're talking about mental health and things like that, and as if they're good for that. They're not, because of where they are. I think if it wasn't there in that format in social media, having a post of affirmations amongst all the other noise and dissent, I think it'd be good. I think we have this opportunity now to protect ourselves from this. We know that Instagram will stop racist comment or something like that. It will flag it if I'm threatening to kill someone. But it then allows so much else. And I think they're the problems where we know you can do the thing to protect us, but you won't because it's against advertising. It's against the whole idea of divisiveness, of how we're being used to fight amongst each other. And, like you see people comment, I'm only here to read the comments. They have no agenda. They're just watching a war take place. And people are like living in this constantly, these states. And I think that is sort of disrupting the thing you do want. You want like some peace, I want to be protected from all this madness. And we've now suddenly got this technology that we can actually do it. It is AI that's actually stopping some percentage of things, like on Instagram, as you can see, where Musk takes that away and Twitter just descends into medieval. And I think, so we do know it's doing something good, but we've got to understand it's being leveraged against us. And just this one split second, we have to think about who builds this next time, who has the opportunity to control this much of our lives where we spend so much time, and do we need to build it in a different way? And are we going to adopt better practices, like with some AI assistants? They're not going to be an overlord or something, but they might remind you of your mental health, might remind you of better habits. We see these come in on phones over the last few years, like your weekly report of how much you've been doom scrolling. And I think, maybe it can like train you to get off this stuff and take the power away from these Facebook. Maybe we're looking at like a handful of people that are exploiting us for advertising. We've actually bought a phone that people can penetrate. It's like pretty mad. It's like, someone want a revolving advert in your billboard in your front room. You sort of nearly have done that. It's that close to your eyes that you have no concept of how much you're consuming. Like, not even close. And like, you just see people. I love reading comments some days when you just see society melt down, and like, how did you all get here? The clickbait that you're all arguing about is clearly clickbait. They've used every tool against you, and you haven't understood a single part of it, and now you're fighting with each other. But the guy that had the company that someone wrote the clickbait about, his shares have just gone through the roof because you're making it trend. And that's how people like Elon Musk win this at the moment.
But what you say is something that lies in the field of consciousness, I believe, because not so many people understand the the current state of things. I think because we're so addicted to social media. We're so addicted to this process of sharing the information, to the fact that we read news every day, we see them, we know what's happening in the lives of our friends and people we've never seen. As if we need it so much that we can't live without it. And to change this discourse, we have to first understand and then have the power, have enough resources to make this happen. But how can we do that? Because right now I can't see any opportunity for us to make any dramatic change, because when it comes to the way that the world lives, there are so many difficulties for us to make it happen. Well, we live in the capitalistic form of like social construction, it seems impossible to make something to change the way we get the information and change the way we communicate.
No, because it was easy to get here. Like, I think we just forget that the only problem we actually have is we can't trust like where we're getting our information from. Like, and what AI can do is sort of intervene in the middle of this and fact check things. Maybe you can, like you would have a VPN or something like that, or a firewall. Like maybe that is how we use AI as an assistant we click a bunch of preferences and we go, don't show me this because this will make me mad. This will make me get involved. Like intervene if you see me writing a massive comment on YouTube at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like it needs to be a friend that goes, nah, maybe not. And I think that's all we want is going, have you thought about what the thing is they're saying? I'm just going to go and research for you and bring you back the actual facts on that. And that's what we have the power to do. We can navigate around how we're being used, and that will then take the power away. This is why they're trying to hold on. You remember, the people that put you in these positions are the people building the next version. They understand what they're fighting against. They're spending more money than ever trying to hold on to a model they've made. Every one of these companies has their own language model at this point and is about to do exactly the same thing. And if you buy in to your Meta version, your Google version, there will be some level of control, because at the end of the day, like, while Google's in this middle of this thing of like, they can't go full AI and do that because they take away their market of the Google search money, which is obviously extortionate amount of money for what they do. And that's so much value. So everyone's sort of just putting their flag in the sand and going, we're this. And the same, like last week, we saw like Apple have to navigate their way around this actual thing of like, they don't mention AI in hours and hours. And basically what they've done is sorted out autocorrect was their big announcement. We've sorted out autocorrect. It's fine, everyone. But what they're trying not to do is get into this space race that we're in of all these big companies trying to take up the market. And what's sort of needed is someone, again, like where you see like Novara Media, little news groups popping up all over the Young Turks and things like that, that are independently funded news sources that have an agenda to be truthful. And I think we need that in the same way as like, your firewall's protecting you from all that bad stuff, or your virus system. You want that for you. We have jabs. We've all been vaccinated to stop us getting ill. But we're apparently still like the moth to the flame with our phones and doing this thing and investing in other people. People are told that this is a way to make your business succeed. This is a way to do this. This is way, I come from a music industry background, and like you'll never see anything as bad as the mental health of a musician. Like how they're treated, how they're manipulated. I've worked for so long, I see young people come in. I'm in no position to intervene and say, these people are going to destroy you. Everything you love, they will destroy. And because they have a dream of how to put this thing together, and then they're just whipped on social media to perform. And it's not the thing they've learned to do. It's not the thing they're passionate about. They're like they have to make clicks to be worthy of something. And that's the weird dystopia we have. And at the same time, it's so antiquated. No one's even listening to bands in that way. They're consuming through playlists. So the new audience don't care who they're listening to. You're just a sound in a playlist that's gone in 3 minutes. We're consuming in such a different way. And we're fed constantly. We don't go looking. And again, we can have AI pull these sources to us, clean sources that don't interrupt our patterns, are healthy. Maybe we can't look at certain content at certain times of the day. We have Apple Watches that track your health, that track this. These things will just get better and understand more about us. And everyone go, oh, well, we don't want to give all our data away. At the same time, you're walking around with all your data on a phone, and there is nothing they don't know about you. Literally, they know where the toilet is in your house from the amount of time you move in those directions. All that data is present. So you don't need to know that. What you need is something protective, something that feels like a friend, something you respond to. It is a diary, it learns. I think there's a lot of potential to exploit a bunch of things in AI for the good and for reasoning and logic. And we all have more power through education if we use AI in the right way, and the first thing we do is have to correct information, because in some countries like England, where I'm from, they don't teach history. At the moment, they're presently trying to stop people, further education into English and arts and that sort of thing. There's a fight against putting the right information into historical buildings, because some of it links back to slavery and people don't want that. So then that's a country that will never learn. And that's a country that's damaged so badly, like within Brexit, because of lack of education. And we have to now put it on ourselves to educate ourselves or our children, etc. And AI is the tool for it. It is that teacher in the room that captures your imagination as a kid, and you can learn better through him than you can anyone else. And I think they're really interesting building blocks that we need to really appreciate. That is as a British thing, with comedians giving lectures on subjects they know, and it's just so much more palatable. And that's why we go to YouTubers sometimes. All these stuff's there, but we just need to trust it all a bit more and have confidence that, I can trust this is the truth, or have a summary of what other people think. There's new news sources at the moment that do that show where the source is coming from, where this information's, I think it's called Global News, and they have the website. And so you can start gauging the truth in it, and you can scroll back historically and start looking at, well, look at this person's voting record in Parliament. They've been against this and this. This time they're saying more lies to get a vote, but have they ever followed through with something? That's a split second with AI. Now I would have to get off my arse and go and have a look and check 10 different sources. But in the future, all these records will be super quick and super available, and we can start assessing with assistance all this information to make informed decisions. So logically, no one would have ever voted for Brexit. No one will vote for Trump next year if we could intervene. Time's ticking.
And I see some troubles, some issues we have to discuss here. Because when you mentioned musicians, artists, designers, creatives who at the same time, they suffer from the need to use social media as an instrument to perform, to get people's attention. But at the same time, this is such a great source for them to spread the information about what they do. And this is like the easiest way. The more followers you have, no?
No. It's like these people aren't mentally capable of doing that. At the moment, we'll start seeing a new breed of people that are. And I think that's what we see on TikTok at the moment. But someone that's sat in a room that has, let's talk about real artists, people that have something to say. I feel some people a little bit more intuitive with human conditions and can write about it, etc. You know, it's magic sometimes or whatever, believing in that stuff. And I don't think they're capable of the scrutiny and the pressure on a momentary basis where a TikToker will understand that it doesn't matter, it's all the same as long as it's fueling clicks, views, whatever. Dissent is probably the main thing. So there's a guy in England called Mizzy at the moment, and you know he's created a thing for himself. So now he's in the public consciousness. So the debates over how he's acting and portraying himself and using the medium, but he's fighting back going, no, you invited me here because you want to be this, you want this conversation. And again, it's that divisive nature. Like if you're brave enough, if you're bulletproof, if you haven't got something to protect, I think you're fine. You can go into that, and like some of these people come out the other side, like TV soap stars and celebrity, reality TV stars. They can breeze through this, but if we look at the mental damage you see, like in the, you know, and some of this exists. I remember being at things with artists, and it's the first time they're up for an award or something, and just everyone's shouting their name at that point for them to look into a camera. You just see it destroy. I remember watching Laura Marlin, and I watched her get destroyed. Like in seconds it took, and she just had to leave the room and she couldn't perform. Just from that level of aggression. And that's in the real world with professional photographers, like in a controlled environment. The internet's that with gloves off. I have to be in a situation where I see managers and that, oh, can you just do another bit of social media? Can you just do that? Can you just do this? And they've no time to like spend in their head, like thinking about art and that sort of thing, because they're constantly got to feed the machine. And I don't find that conducive to making good art. I think that's where I see the disconnect in that, and they're two different, totally different jobs.
And does it, if we want to change it, if we understand that the new generation had this switch in the way of thinking, which must be transformed, we need to re-educate these people. We need to re-educate ourselves to make a change. How is it possible? Through what channels, through what instruments and tools can we make it happen?
We have to learn the worth of what we're doing. You got to remember, like, everyone that's like doing social media, let's talk about the majority of people involved in social media, like, are basically working for the social media company, providing them free content. Like before social media come on, everyone had a website. It's like everyone having a phone number. You knew where I was. I'm at my website. And then suddenly we put the value in someone else's business. It's so bizarre. Like what we didn't hold on to anything of our own. We just thought, oh, we'd put it all on there. It's free. And obviously it wasn't free. And what they've taken is our autonomy to like sort of build networks without them. So they're holding us hostage. You think of the business model of Instagram, it's genius. Basically, you get to reach 10% of your audience. If you pay, you can reach 15%. And that's it. What's the point of all those things? What's the point of it? I think when you look, like women of Web3 and like companies like Fireside are really, really interesting, where what they're doing is setting these platforms up, letting you put content on there. You have the full reach of your thing. You have backing. Mila Kunis is doing her new show on there, because if she goes to Netflix, she gets one season, they cancel it, and they own the IP for it. So if she go to Fireside, she can get it funded by the people that want to watch it, so it's pre-funded, and she owns the IP. So she can take that anywhere she likes. The most important thing is to own the things that we make. And this is what we're looking at now. Everyone's talking about, oh, AI's scraped the internet, AI's done this, AI's done that. Do you understand the people that have collated all this and done all this are the people that have held you subservient for that? They've capped your communication with your friends. Imagine like having a feed like it's like getting a weekly newspaper all jumbled up and all the stories are in the wrong order just to fuck with your head because of an algorithm, because of money, because of like Instagram would have had more of like sense of just gone, let's just charge everyone 20 quid a year and let them reach everyone and stop pissing around. Because all they've done is created a horrible environment where we work hard to create an audience which we can't reach. It's pointless. Like, you just need to look at things for what they are. And, you know, maybe AI in the future will just look at like, you've just literally spent 8 hours today scrolling through Instagram, giving them nothing but, you know, more money, clicking on things that have no interest in you, being angry about things, being happy, being sad, feeling inadequate. All these emotions are going through you like an episode of X Factor or something. By the end, you're an emotional wreck. You go to bed and then you're, that's where was I yesterday? And you there isn't an end to it. The way they took the end off it, you used to scroll and you go, oh yeah, this is the last time I saw. Now that never ends. It never ends. You will never get to the end of it. And like the guys that created it won't let their children touch it. What more do you need to know? That's how mentally ill that thing is. It's sort of just a bad case of a schizophrenic, and you're talking to that all day and you're wondering why you feel sick.
And if we're changing this way of consuming the social media, aren't we going to face some changes in the way we have this cross-cultural communication? Because we will, as I see it, we might stay more separated, more independent in terms of our own traditions, cultures, and etc. And how can we try to develop this new language of communication, universal, multicultural, the one that everyone understands and can use to make the conversation happen?
I think we've always had that within images and that sort of thing. I think AI again lends into communication massively in real time, audio changing and being able to do a lot of things in that. But it's important to keep our traditions. And I think as we move forward into the internet, I think some biases have been created by the lack of black culture and African history within the AI, and that's just because of the situation they've been in history. So when we I in my work, I don't ever specify what I want, that if I want female, male, this, that, other. So I have a generic thing that would never push it in one way or the other. And I've always kept it like that. And it's really interesting because like it's so rare that it would bring up someone from an African descent in comparison with white people first, blonde white people first, and then there's a massive amount of Asian people it will be, and then like black people will come in 1 in 20 if I was lucky. And that's because it's a snapshot of the internet and it's a snapshot of wealth. And these little things have to be resurrected. If we don't have enough black culture in there, we have to create it, we have to find it, we have to add that to that data set to even out these biases. But finally, we can actually look at it, and any dispute of what you think the world looks like, it's in AI. You can see it. I get all day people calling me a racist, sexist, this, what, and ever, and this, along with a lot of other things about AI, because one, they don't understand about where it's come from, and again, they're all fed by clickbait, and the first thing they do is go on Instagram and put AI art and get angry at me. And you can't educate them because they're angry. They don't understand enough things to even have a conversation about something. So it gets quite frustrating. And that's the same thing. I've never really faced it on anything other than this. So this is my first sort of introduction into like hate on the internet, being trolled and seeing bias. I only see that in real life, really. So I don't know. I just think it's like we have to slow down and realize who the captures are in this thing and like what you're doing. You should be building your own things. You shouldn't be supporting Meta. You shouldn't be supporting other things unless they've got your interest. And I think when you look at politics with Brexit and Trump and other right wing movements, I think you have to question how things like Cambridge Analytica could happen and who to trust in the future. It's usually, it's not like, I've sort of already in my project Midnight Mars, I consider all these things really early. As the narrative sort of moves on, it sort of explores a lot of the idea of who would sort of be the people that ended up on Mars. It wasn't ever going to be a bunch of nice, like the overall was never going to be a bunch of nice people that wanted to do something like good. There will always be an underlying motif of that, but it's a lot of people and power at the end of the day. And people are obsessed with power. And I think that's like the Andrew Tate thing's an instance of this. I think Elon Musk's this sort of thing and how fragile those egos are. And they're at such a new level of what they're training young men to be. And by taking like the limits off Twitter, all these people can be freer to speak their truth or whatever random thing comes in their head for that minute. And I think when Trump was there, that used to warn you that that was bullshit. It used to go, this guy's a clown, don't listen to him. Now he's coming back without like any of those restrictions again. He's got his own Truth Social and mad shit like that going on, and he's got all these nutters going to space and all this sort of thing, and people are finding that like aspirational, and you're just like, you're never going to be Andrew Tate like, at all. You're just like, that's not going to happen. You live here, you live there. You're not going to be a fighter and earn a lot of money and be able to be convincing as well as he is. He's obviously psychotic at best, like, and forgetful, let's say. And like, I think like something needs to intervene, especially like, and you need to be taught good mental health. And I think, you referred to at the beginning where you're like, these things are important. These things, we are getting challenged by a lot of things, but we can chuck that like a lot tighter if we don't let them people control it that need it to be open. It's no different than everyone going, oh, we need to stop AI, we need to stop AI. And then Musk 2 days later going, I've got this plan for AI. And you see all this and you sort of see this, this ring fencing of it. Yeah, it needs to be regulated. What you mean is you've got it all set up and you don't want no one else in there now because you've got it set up. And that would work really well for where they were and the people involved. That would give them continuity from going from social media to AI social media. That's my biggest worry.
Thanks for mentioning Midnight on Mars. I actually wanted to talk about that a bit later. So before that, I also have a question concerning the ethical aspect of this change we're discussing. As you see it, are there going to be any new rules, new reference points in the society for us? Attitude towards new ethics, whether it will change or it will just be a completely different system of ethical rules we have. how the society is going to change. I mean, in the core of it, in the ethical, moral aspect, or is it going to change at all?
You would hope it would. Like, I find it really interesting in conversations where people talk, like, are outraged by fake imagery. Oh my god, it's fake, it's AI, it's fake. It's like, how will I ever believe anything again? What can I trust? And it's like, what the fuck were you trusting anyway? Adverts? Like, movies are made up, TV's made up, like, adverts are selling you things. Like, most things written in the majority of big selling newspaper are lies. Fox News exists. The BBC exists, the British government exists, Trump exists. Where was your truth in the first place? Why wasn't you thinking about everything else before you got to seeing an image of something that, that's the problem. It's like how you tell that person individually to check what makes you not want to look like an idiot. I think they're the questions. It's like, do you actually want to know, or you just want to fight? Because I think that's the problem. It's like them Andrew Tate people and like people that want to defend Musk, they just want to fight. They don't really want to engage their brain. They just want to be a billionaire and go to space, without the realization it's never happening. Like, I don't understand how we engage in education. I think, like, it all goes back to, at some point we have to go, like, look both ways across the street before you just run out into it or you're going to die. It's like that. Like, we're at a critical point. If we keep on not educating people, what happens? It's like Trump literally says he goes, I love the poorly educated. And he says that to the poorly educated, and they all clap. And it's like, like, the irony is just wasted. It's just a moment where I don't even know what that is. Like, in the end, where you don't even know you're the patsy in this, and you're going to like vote this guy into power, and you're all going to storm the building at the end of it because you don't believe in anything. How do you tell that person? Like, there has to be a point where we go, someone, maybe a government has to intervene and go, okay, so we have to deal with AI. So maybe all news has to be factual and everything else actually doesn't matter. It can be whatever you like it has been in history before, but we have to have factual things in the news, and maybe an advert has to be real. People complain about, oh, this model's been photoshopped, this model's been that. And it's like, that's what we've been doing for years. That's basically what makeup is. That's definitely what dressing up is. That's how our clothes are, everything around us. And I think we just have to have balance in all these things to recognize the things you're looking at. I think that's all it is just going, this is that, and I believe the thing that I'm being told, especially when it comes to politics and advertising. Then does it matter? I think we could get on a lot better if we didn't. I understand there's right and left, but there has still be facts in it. You can't just say, like, attack another person who's asked you a question instead of answering the question. That's what I see a lot of. And we never get anywhere because we're just constantly in this fight. We were a lot quicker once we had the internet, but then the internet got polluted by not being factual. I think maybe in the future, like, AI and facts will be a little closer to Wikipedia, that can be keep relatively being checked by all of us, a core of us, or something. It's not ideal, but it needs to be open. I live in Berlin. We've got a coalition government. I like those ideas where everyone's checking on everyone because they don't all trust each other. And I think we need to maybe a little bit like that. There's got to be a level of mistrust and everyone keeping on each other thing to make sure it is ethical. And I don't think it can come from anywhere else other than government enforcing strict rules on news broadcasting and print media, because they're the problems, because everything just comes down from that.
And it also causes some troubles with not some, but many troubles with the education, And as a student, I've just defended my thesis a couple of days ago, and I see this issue for me right now when I don't know what is this place where I can get the education I want to get with all the people I find inspirational enough, with all the professors and lecturers I'd love to listen to get the knowledge and to have this conversation, to discuss things, to share ideas and share the vision. And this is the problem of the prices. The prices for education are just extremely high. This is something absolutely unacceptable. You just see the numbers and you want to cry. It's about the time, because education requires a lot of time. And after all this COVID madness, we're also now facing the amount of programs that are now available online, even in universities. So you come to university to get the education, but you are told to watch an online course just to cover the plan, the educational plan. But you don't get the knowledge, you don't get the opportunity to talk to your classmates, to discuss something, to ask questions, to get the answers, to think, which is just as if it is the key value of the education. And these are the issues of the system. And if you want to get to university, you understand that this is somehow connected with the government, so it's not entirely free. If you want to go to a group of students, which was organized by some lecturer you've been admiring for years, you understand that you will not get, a certificate, a diploma to have a chance to work later. So there are some problems, some difficulties in any aspect of getting the education you want, except for the situation when you're a free thinker and you don't need anything, you just want to make it for yourself. And this is somehow impossible for many people because it requires the inner freedom, enough freedom to make a decision that you would like just to make things for yourself without getting any certificates, any diplomas, without paying money, without spending your time on some pointless things. Not many young people can afford. So how can we transform this approach to education to help us?
It's really interesting. Again, I think education is, it's a basic human right, and it's sort of throttled. I think big businesses not paying their taxes anywhere is a massive problem. General globalization and not paying teachers well enough. That used to be a decent job. Especially, who wants to go and teach in a high school now, and especially in some places, it's horrific and underfunded, and you don't have the resources. And so I think, again, it goes back to what I said. It's like, I think something in AI, it is replicating those teachers that do inspire you. And I think TED Talks and things like that have been really good, and specialists in certain things on YouTube are great. And these people have been supporting you, learn a lot, and they are personalities that you're buying into to help you educate. And I think if we have to sacrifice the one-to-one human connection to have a constant level of education, and we keep thinking I think one of our biggest problems is we stop educating, or we stop wanting to learn as we go on, and people end up stuck where they were. People hold on to the past. They I'm working with some people at the moment, and all their training stops in 2021. And you're like, well, I don't know. It's so frustrating because you're like, so much has happened in that short amount of time, but it's so instrumental. And, like these kids are being given iPads and this, you'll be in a restaurant and some parents behind you will like have Moulin on or something for their kids to keep it quiet through dinner. And you're just like, it's so one dimensional. It is a distraction. It's not an education. And I hope with all these new technologies and these things, we can move to making things more interactive, making learning more accessible and more of a want. You need to be taught the thirst for education as much as just to be educated, because the thirst will keep you always being educated. It's interesting when you see some of these lecturers at the moment that have been working in AI for 25, 30 years, when was that even going on back then? And, they're still academics as much as working in commerce, because they understand that duality of crossing that board is how they stay at the top of anything. And I think that's what you're seeing a little bit within art and the rejection of AI and everything at the moment. We've obviously been here so many times, like in exactly the same place, and exactly the same things happening, and exactly things will happen in the future. It's like all those jobs will go, and then a bunch of new jobs that we don't even understand today will exist. Imagine this is your first podcast. Like, who would have thought podcasting could be a job 5 years ago? 10 years ago, barely a few people knew what it was. To be a YouTuber, to do this, to do all these things, they never existed before they suddenly existed. And that's what we're just going to go through. This is a new renaissance. This is exactly the same what they went through. Art changes drastically through tools. And that's what's always happened. I have people that are like an Adobe Illustrator artist, like slagging me off on the net. And like going, oh, you just like, what do you think people said about like people using computers to be an illustrator? Like every one of these conversations, it's wrapped up in Duchamp and all these things. I think it's sort of, we need to be just more sort of free to move with this change. And like, we don't hear enough good things about AI. We don't talk about medicine. We don't talk about all these other beautiful things, that how we can process things that amount quicker. Things will be safer. Things will be better. Like, we are focusing on the rise of robots that obviously never can happen. It's like this doomsday. It is impossible. So like, there is no agency for AI to rise up and like find all these resources and build itself into a thing. And what are you imagining? It's like, this is the fear we have all day. And like, what we could do is embrace this, look at it, maybe in a holistic way nearly, and go, we can make this better for us all if we do it like this. This stuff is open source. Everyone has access to this. Everyone has an access to move into this and create something. Like look at data in a different way than we've ever been able to get results. And, I'm dyslexic. I can now write, I had to put a new Instagram account together for my AI work, because I put a few images on my photography and people just lost their shit and was so angry. I lost 2,000 people in 3 days, like with a load of hate mail. And so like now I live in this like bubble of people's imagination who are using Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion and DALL-E and that sort of thing to create things that are in their head. And these might be otherworldly, they might be freaky and weird and like obscure, or a little niche that they like that amuses them, and they've got 30 followers. But all I do is see people's imagination all day. I go back to my other one and I just see regurgitation. I just see like the last 20 years extracted from the last 100 years and repeated over and over again, and nothing new going in the pot. It's dry, everything's boring, it has no life anyway. So Why not just do something totally different? Why not look at all these things that have been done to us for the last 20 years and go, we've got the power to actually change this to our advantage. We have a choice to back out of our agreements with Facebook, all these major things and TikTok and that, and have better, healthy things to do with our life. Maybe I don't need to feed my brain with rot from TikTok all day long. Maybe I'll find education more interesting and communicating with my friends about things and using my imagination to build things and oh, we're on the bus and let's make an episode of a new show that we want to do. And by the time your bus is home in 10 years time, you'll go home and watch the episode you wrote on the bus with your mates, laughing your ass off. And, we're just copying. They've just taught everyone to copy. We've sort of regressed to sort of apes. It's really, really bizarre. And a few people stick their head out and I want to do this, and they're just smashed into the ground. I see how damaging the anti-AI movement is as a thing on friends on Instagram that are making AI that will get targeted. And if their work moves into a mainstream place, people will just swarm feed and the comments I get on a daily basis are insane. There's just no logical reason to say these things. You're just whatever. But you can see the psyche. You can see what's being done to people. Everything starts with a doom at the moment about AI. And it could really be turned around and everything could be so positive. But who the fuck would care? Who's clicking on it? AI saves baby. No one's clicking on it. No one cares. They just want, the robots are coming for you. You've got something to say then, ain't you? Good news doesn't travel that fast.
And talking about your personal background, how did you come up with all these ideas, and how did you form this understanding of things, having your experience in the music industry? What were the aims of your artistic research back then, and how have they changed, transformed? What are the reasons? What were the reasons for you to do what you did, and right now, what are they?
I think they've always been the same. It's sort of an understanding of behaviour. My background's very, very rough, very, very uneducated, no art, mainly sort of racism, sexism. Outside my school, where I went to school, was the headquarters of the National Front, the racist party in England, and that's what everyone done. Everyone was a racist. Everyone still lives where they lived, 3 doors down from their mum. It was a cultural thing, and I just never liked it. It just felt so weird and so boring that I could see the end of my life from where I was at probably 11 if I didn't have a different outlook, because all you could see is just generations of racists just claiming this was the next problem, that's the next problem. And all this racism just pointed me towards a load of people that was having fun and doing something different. From the Greek family next door that would be having a barbecue and it would just smell amazing, to some Indian wedding, and you're just oh wow, that's different. And that's all I've ever been interested in. So, and I luckily enough traveled the world making music videos and photography, so you have that opportunity to see how similar we all are. And so most people are just trying to get on, I find. The majority don't really care. And I think it's nicer, the further you move into rural areas, the less they're affected by social media, so it doesn't play a part in their life, so they're more sort of unique and can be themselves. I think, you just, that homogenization. I remember going to Turkey, to Istanbul, and like the high street there nearly being exactly the same as Glasgow. There were 3 shops that lined up in exactly the same order as a Glasgow high street. It was just freaky. You were just like, wow, this is sort of everything now. And, I see Americans travel and they just love the fact, oh my God, there's a Starbucks. Like, they can have exactly the same thing they can have at home, and they haven't got to eat foreign muck or haven't got to do anything like that. And, it's different when you go. I've been things where we've gone down the Amazon and things like that, and you're like, we might not even come out of here alive. Like, let them have dinner. Like, and I find that they're exciting, and they're the moments that we should be living. But, my background is just seeing that everyone's quite cool, really. And, if you don't fuck with everyone, they might come to a nice understanding. And we have to build communities again. And again, going back to early internet, it's so about community based. It's like there's little pockets where, like, there was one of my first sort of memories of how useful it was that I was watching a TV show and I missed the last episode. So I found a forum and I posted on there, did anyone have the last episode? And some guy just sent me a videotape of it. And that's like, there is no files moving across the internet at that point. And that's how I thought it would be. And I find that interesting. I think when I listen to talks from women in web and that sort of thing about Web3 and their development, that makes me think of that. And I think, oh, that's actually, they're just taking us back and resetting it. And I think AI plays a part in that. Fireside, all these other things, how we start moving games and movies into different directions, all becomes more interesting. We talk about the metaverse and people talk about, oh, will it happen, and this sort of thing. And with such a lack of understanding that it already exists. It's what Fortnite is, it's what Minecraft is, it's been there all the time. You're just not of the generation of that at this point, so you don't recognize it as that thing. And I think you saw that in the pandemic where, like, you saw parents just have to like go, yeah, play Minecraft. That's where you play. That's where you communicate. They've got their headphones on and they're talking in that way. And that generation, that's who they are. That like generation that went through that pandemic in that way, that's going to be their makeup. We haven't seen them come of age yet, so we don't know. But I would pretty much, when they're tested, they prefer a non-human interaction than a human one. They'd rather go through a keypad. They'd rather have a voice-activated thing. And when we talk about AI and assistants and agents and this sort of thing, that's who I'm thinking about, which they're probably 11 now. And by the time we have this technology into them, we might have a tool in their hand that is a healthier tool than the thing we have now. I don't think we need anything in there that an agent doesn't bring you. I don't think we want apps or anything like that. We want one thing that goes through everything, that brings us stuff that is healthy for us, that is what we've chosen, that can be monitored by parents, like they monitor phones and these sort of things, and build healthy habits that, you can do time management with your assistant where you're like, you allotted 8 hours this week to play on there. If you do your own work, if you do that, and it knows, and all these things, have you exercised? Have you done this? I know you haven't because you've got, you haven't done that. When you do your steps and you're like, I haven't managed to do fuck all today, but I managed to get my 10,000 steps in. It's an achievement, and they're just habits we should start building into everything. And I think Apple and people like that are really in tune to that. I think there's a lot of health checks going on in certain things, but not on a lot of other things where people are being exploited. I think TikTok's probably one of the worst at this. I don't know. I just think we need to be giving less data out. And I think us having a barrier like our assistant is so important. And it will make us more intelligent. We're never the intelligent person in the room, but suddenly the power of having these AI tools that can educate us, I can think my ideas through in lots and lots of different ways of reasoning. You know, you've got to remember that people prompting today won't have anything on the way kids prompt in the future. They will know the machine language inherently. We're at the moment muddling through, like, because it's so messy. By the time it gets to them in a nice, packed way, it will be more in tune. Like, you've got to remember, we're 6 months into something at the moment, realistically, in real time, people playing with it. It's literally nothing. Everyone's just talking about ideas. You know, it's like, but these ideas are important. And what you're sort of seeing, things like GitHub, where people are making their own applications for AI, there's like lots of breakout little ideas going out there that are really beautifully thought out. They're adding to like making things better. And I think there might be a trend for that where we have an opportunity to pull away from the bigger suppliers where that have had us captive in the past. I think the thing is like we might adopt easier as Facebook, Instagram users, where kids might not have that opportunity to just switch my account because they're not already involved anyway. So they might not have the investment that we have in building a following or something. Maybe it's not as valuable in the future. Like on my photography account, I turned off views a long time ago. I don't want to see that shit. It's sort of, so you don't have no view counters. I noticed when I was in Japan, they didn't have them in Japan. And you're like, oh, and they're the things we have to take. You know, them guys that put the likes on and that little thing, they would never let their kid near them hit one of these things because they know what they did was evil. Like, imagine, you know, I feel the same about award shows as well. I find that barbaric where you're like, you've chosen 4 people that have done something good. You're going to upset the majority of them. 3 are going home pissed off. Right, so more people are unhappy at the end of the night than were at the beginning. The mentality behind that I just find like so bizarre. I've always refused any nomination I've had for any award at all. I just find it like, why on earth would I be so stupid to fall for something like that? It's like, what? Like, the best I could be was be angry or shallow, one or the other. Don't want either of them. None of it. And I don't want your tacky little award either. I think it's sort of, we have to sort of like maybe deprogram ourselves from the reward system we've sort of given ourselves. I think the dopamine problem from likes and that sort of thing, and we value it as success. And like, there's no barometer that that's a thing. Realistically, you might have a little bit more reach, but it's not a success. You know, like what I did with the Midnight on Mars project, it was really me trying to understand if I could find a way where a musician could create a world where they didn't have to be a part of it every day, and could music exist within that. I post one image and I see what happens, and that's what I've done for 5 months. And I've seen people work 5, 7 years to get the numbers I got in 6 months. So sort of proving my point, or I was right, that there's a better way. And that was only about mental health. That was only, would this save your brain if you didn't have to think about something else to post that was inane? Because at best you're going to write 12 songs every 2 years. And what have you got to talk about? Like, as a musician, it's literally, by default, you're nearly boring because you've had the energy to like stay at home and learn a musical instrument while everyone else had fun. Like, you really don't have much going on because you live in your head quite a lot. And I think then you ask that person to perform in a uncomfortable environment. It's like when someone pulls out a guitar at a party and ask someone to like sing a song, you're just like, oh God, don't do it. Like, we just live in such an awkward world now. Some people are good at it, but they are probably clinically insane, but they probably were anyway. They just literally are in tune with something that's so insane that it works and it thrives. It's somewhat fascinating, but as an overall, like we do, like someone at some point has to put their hand up and go, look, this is just crazy to continue in this way of thinking of giving all this data to these people to doom scroll forever. So like, people do know, but it's how you change the habit. I think if it's not there, you buy a phone that has nothing. It's just like when I look at my phone now, you're my assistant. I talk to you. You're the window to my world and you bring me safe things. That's what I think a phone should be. Yeah, it's just like, but I think we're so close. If everyone focuses in that way, we set our values, we set our parameters, we set our triggers, and we live in that way. Educate me about this. I want to know about this. Update me on this. What am I doing? It's like I was describing something to someone earlier, and it was like the anxiety of being late for something. Like, it's so interesting. So before you've actually got there, you're in a state and then you have to perform, be that work, be that anything. But an AI in the future can do half of those things. It's like, oh my God, the bus is running 5 minutes late. You're already running 5 minutes late. You need to do this. You need to do that. And it's telling you, so you're not involved in the mental process, what makes you anxious. It's telling you once it's worked it out. It's going, just go to the next bus stop on the other side, go that way, be there. I'm going to pull up those minutes for your meeting, bang, bang, bang. Remember this is how you're going in there. And you have just been like, you've literally still been doing the job with instruction. And then you get there and you don't have the, oh my God, sorry. And I think they're the things that when you talk to people, what creates anxiety is all those things, meeting someone new, doing this, doing that. And, I don't really think about those things. I find it really hard when people go through them things and they tell me, and I'm like, oh, right, well, that's a thing, is it? But I do sort of, I'm on the other side. I'm the music video director, the photographer that sees people come in. So I see people at their rawest. I hear them at the most vulnerable. I see what they're scared of. And, I've worked with everyone, like Oscar, nominated actors to little bands you've never heard of. And they all suffer the same things. They're all screwed over in some way and trying to be healthy, but not finding it. And, some of these people have used Scientology to stop taking drugs and that sort of thing. So there's things there, and you just think, all right, what's Scientology doing in that situation? And it's just a crutch, like drugs was a crutch. So let's just replace the crutches of obviously Scientology. All right, maybe it was better than doing heroin, but is it better than just being at peace with yourself? And what I'm interested in the future is creating a space where we can be at peace, where we are regulated, where machine learning knows enough about us that it knows what the healthy choice is. We've created a mental, virtual, physical space there. We can go, we can reset. It knows how long that's going to take. Without being mum, when dad comes home, I just need 30 minutes in my little headspace to just reset and I'll be with you. And it's just that being enforced by the AI that you need to do this. Because people like to serve, they like to do this, they like to feel like they're doing things and they forget about themselves. And, once all these things, and AI is intelligent enough to monitor a whole family and just go, oh, right, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that, like a calendar. But you start just making sure you've all got what you need, that bit of education. That tutor you can't afford for your kid that needs a bit more maths help is suddenly there. because it's an AI thing and you can trust it. You've got all these things. You have a subscription and all the family are using stuff, or therapy, or this, that, and the other. Exercise, we see so much improvement in people's, like just by Biel's monitor. I'm good at my steps thing because in the pandemic, I got fucking lazy. And you're like, the steps counter saves my ass. At least it justifies I've done it. And if I do a little bit over each week, I'm like chuffed with myself. Like, just because it's like, that's how simple we are as human beings and how malleable we are. So that shows you how you can be, that could be something bad. And you've got to remember at the same time, people are building AI things that are going to be bad, that will take your imagination, that will do this, will suck everything out of you again. So I think we have to be super, super, super aware to build protective things like we have, like virus protection, like we have vaccination, all these things. We need a better value system and we need more education about like what makes us strong in a community and how we build those things. And I don't think it's a pulling away from anything. I think in the future we'll pull away from having bigger cities, so we might go back to having smaller communities. I hope. I see that being the strength when I go to places like Africa, South America, and that sort of thing. I think that's super interesting because everyone's looking out for everyone. And I think that's sort of maybe where we're looking in the future. I hope so, anyway.
Thank you for the thoughts. And actually, talking about Midnight on Mars, we are on Lunatum. We're big fans of the project. When we first saw it on Instagram, that's how we actually found out about Steve, which is a shame, but still. So, to explain it to the people who are listening to us, this is like a blog from Cooper, a scientific journalist who lives in Midnight, which is like the first colony on Mars, if I remember correctly. There's a playlist on Spotify, which I've listened to for many times. And when I was thinking about preparing for this conversation and just in free time, about the creation of new worlds, I made it for myself. I came up with three dimensions of how I see this process of creating the world with AI. Firstly, it is like a form of democracy because you have new possibilities for sharing your ideas without having any specific skills or having some, but maybe not fully developed. You just have a platform to make a statement or to start a dialogue, a conversation. Secondly, this is a way of how we can reconsider human rights and social responsibility. This is what we've already discussed on ethical aspects of work and how we control workflow, the process, the results we get at the end. And thirdly, it was about relations with self, which I guess you've mentioned when we talked about mental health. Because it's about your personal imagination, your thoughts, your feelings, your opportunities to reflect on and to live through these emotions that are inside. Some sort of escapism, perhaps, and at the same time, a universal language for everyone who feels the same way, being in an absolutely different position and situation. And while listening to what you just said, I also felt that it is a sort of a research, a method, because through creating this new world, you have to think of so many things, your personal feelings, the world formation. You have to think about other people too, because these are people who are going to if not leave, then just to see this world you've created for yourself. It seems it just helps us to see the world we live in currently through many prisms, to make a full understanding of what's happening right now. And this leads me to, I guess, my last question to you. Are we curious? And is curiosity the feature we lack these days? Something we have to develop in ourselves to achieve the results we've been talking about for this whole time? Or is curiosity something that, like, bad curiosity, something that led us to the current state, to the world where we are addicted to social media and we can't live without it? What's your opinion on that?
I think the trouble is, like, I think there's less curiosity. I think we're accepting so much of what's told to us, and that's the division that we see between, like, traditionally the left and the right, but the left and the right is encompassing on everything because it's the internet and everyone can have an opinion on everything that they feel is valid. But there's no curiosity to, like, I rarely get someone go, oh, you know what, I went off and looked about what you said about the history of art and how this is applied, since that, or, yeah, oh, this actually would have applied to me 20 years ago when I done that. Someone would be hating on me for the thing I done. And that's never happened. No one's sort of ever come back. So a couple of people have come back and gone, I'm sorry I made that comment, because after I made that comment, it went mental and everyone was like just literally unhinged and fighting in the comments. And you're just like, that's fine. But, like, I'm not seeing people grow within these conversations I'm having at the moment. And when you're looking at, like, how many academics are coming forward to try to explain the things that are happening, because people like Musk will say it's got to become sentient, and, like, there's no way to, like, it back once it's out, it's gone forever. And these things are obviously ludicrous things to say. And because he has such a following, he's a guy making the world dumber constantly. I don't know if he's as stupid as he is, or it's motivational financially, but they're probably close to being the same thing anyway. I just, again, it goes back to, like, inspiring people with a thirst to be educated, want to, like, understand. I feel like everyone thinks they know everything now because they read it on a post on Facebook. When you go into the comments on anything, and it's like, it is sort of like, these aren't different opinions, like, because they're barely opinions, they're just fighting. So I don't know, like, what that actually is, or, yeah, I can't get my mind on that's just what we do because it's Facebook. When you look at early 4chan and that sort of thing, where this all sort of comes from, it's, it all has a name, it's a certain thing, but now that's sort of been adopted into everything we do. It's sort of, we expect that level of hate that we go, oh, the haters, and it has a terminology, and it's like, I don't know, why does everyone feel they need an opinion on something? Maybe people are less creative, maybe homogenization, like, creates that sort of thing. It's like, I've got a picture of, like, two, like, as if they're young children, but they're aliens created in AI. And the comments underneath it, you shouldn't do this to children. It's just like, there's just no willing to, like, engage. It's like, I don't know what you're watching in real life, that what's going on when you watch a movie. You really think there's, like, these superheroes flying around, or what? Like, why aren't you being more perceptive in this sort of thing? And they're going, well, regulate, like, everything it says this AI has to say it's AI, and you're just like, No, it just doesn't. I'm afraid, like, it just doesn't, because we've never done that in the past when we've done anything else. It's like, I think some countries pushed for filters and that sort of thing. I never know if that worked. When maybe a Scandinavian country wanted, if you was using filters in adverts, you had to say it was that, which I don't mind. I don't really mind saying it's AI, but I think again we're pushing where we're looking for the problem in the wrong direction. I think we have to keep reverting back to the systems we live within, and how we've come so far away from decent education being something that's really, really important and fundamental. Again, we want the assistant in our pocket that keeps us educated, don't make us stupid, like intervenes in your stupid ass like Facebook comment and go, you do know that's untrue before you post it or something like that. It's very easy to build technology that sits in between those two things. Or we speak to our thing and you go, hey, I'm seeing this comment that comes on. Elon Musk keeps on talking some bullshit about this. Like, I was just thinking about like having a comment on the Twattersphere about it, and like, what do you think? And it like goes, well, the information is this. Most people are saying this, and people are saying this. The source of this comes from here. This, and this. Do you want to make your own mind up from all this, or do you want me to tell you what it probably is? You can have levels of interjection, maybe, but just put the power back in people's hands to be educated from a really young age. If you're using like tablets and that sort of thing to distract kids, let's build better things that teach them morals, rights and wrongs from a really early age. Teach them other languages, give them a quest to like learn, and protect us all from being exploited. And it is the exploitation that I'm talking about, because we will see this in 20 years as barbaric. And that's why you see the people that invented the like button do interviews and distancing themselves so much, because, these next 5 years where we build the architecture of the next 20 years is fundamental to get right. What we've learned is how to fucking do it wrong and make people ill. We have to change. Same way as we smashed down all the shops and put everything on Amazon. And, that's where we lost communities. That's where the communities were, in those little groups of shops. And that sort of held environments and towns together. And that's now what we've lost, but we have to build that. And it doesn't have to be locally, it can be globally, but as you said, in little networks of like-minded people sharing ideas and that sort of thing. We go back to a forum-based thing that might be within the metaverse, that, we don't care where people are from or anything. We just want to communicate with people that share beliefs.
Thank you very much. It was very thought-provoking, I would say, because there are so many things to think about right now for me, and I hope that our followers or listeners have something to reconsider, to think about as well. It was a pleasure having an opportunity.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. For me, definitely.
Yeah, I like talking about it because it is so fresh and new, and the more people that are involved in the discussion, the better it will be in the future. And I think all I'm just saying is like, let's just rethink it all. Just like, let's not settle for what we're going to be sold, because we all can be these architects. And there genuinely is a lot of people out there trying to do the right thing. And so there is potential, but they don't have the big money and the big power. So the small independent world really has to speak up this time and be a big part of building something that could be so good, so exciting. And, we've lived in such a weird way for so long. Like, I'm always weirded out by like how long we've been looking at something down the end of a room, like as a gig or a theatre. It feels like we have to move past that now. And I think AI and gaming and movies, as it all moves into this next thing, that someone will write a movie soon that will be experienced by, like, physically and mentally totally different by every person. It won't be the same film, but it will mean the same thing. I think there's a lot of interesting things we can do, and when you start looking at AI in games, it's sort of, you realise it will change movies as much as it will games.
I hope this conversation will at least pay attention and raise awareness.
Yeah,
One of the steps on the way.
yeah. It's just move it all along. Everyone keeps talking about something else. This might not be the answer, but it's just my view on a few things of like that. The steps, I don't know. I think the first step is to sort of calm everyone down and let them, I don't know, maybe alternatives. We have to look at alternatives of of who's going to be involved. This is the trouble. We're in the wrong hands again. We're always in the wrong hands when it comes to money and technology. And, this is in the hands of Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and all the usual suspects. It's like it's a rogues gallery of people that have wronged us. And they're there again, like all going to sell us out down the river. Ah, we'll see. Thank you. Cool.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. And we'll be looking forward for your comments, for your thoughts on today's conversation. Let us know what you think, and hopefully hear next time on Lunatum Mac podcast. Thank you. Bye.